Okay, hello everyone. Our group presentation is on sexual harassment in the workplace. I will be covering how sexual harassment impacts an organization's culture. Gigi will be covering the legal implications a workplace may face as a result of sexual harassment claims. Brianna will be exploring sexual harassment in the modeling industry. Alexandra will analyze the emotional effects of sexual harassment in the workplace. And Ola will discuss the connection between gender issues and sexual harassment in the workplace. Creating a culture of prevention. An article in ASIS, Security Management Systems, author Megan Gates discusses how a company can build a culture that prevents sexual harassment. Harassment is more likely to occur in homogeneous workplaces with little diversity. Workplaces that are primarily comprised of male employees or male employees that have high power positions. However, too much diversity can also impact a workplace negatively, as people from different backgrounds may be less aware of norms and laws. Other risks can include employing a high number of young people, as they may not be aware that their behavior is considered harassment. Workplaces where employees engage in monotonous tasks, boredom can result in harassment and bullying. And workplaces that tolerate or encourage alcohol consumption. Alcohol lowers your inhibitions and leads to bad decisions. Organizations need to have commitment from leadership to create a diverse, inclusive, and respectful workplace. They need to hold individuals accountable for violating policies and conduct climate assessments that provide leadership a better understanding of how employees feel about safety or how they feel if the workplace encourages harassment or not. In a study published by the National Communication Society, authors Jessica Ford and Sonia Ivancic examine how organizational culture affects employees' vulnerability to sexual harassment. Sexual harassment fatigue is bad for both employees and the organization. It's bad for the organization because it means that sexual harassment within the organization may continue. And it's bad for the employees because fatigue will eventually prevent them from being productive at work and may result in burnout. Organizational tolerance and intolerance. The organizational culture around sexual harassment and whether employees feel that the organization supports victims of sexual harassment and is intolerant of sexual harassers. How employees feel about their current situation at work. They must feel supported that the company will do something if they do come forward with claims. And victim vulnerability is considered the opposite of resilience, which refers to the individual's ability to return to normal after trauma. The thought of, I worry this could happen again to me in the future.
Legal implications. Some of the behaviors that constitute sexual harassment consist of unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, and threats or bribes for sexual activity. Sexual comments or suggestive jokes can also be sexual harassment in some contexts. Unwelcome touching can also be considered sexual harassment. The harasser could be a supervisor, a coworker, or even someone who isn't an employee of the employer. Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 is a federal law that protects individuals from discrimination based upon sex. This makes it illegal for an employer to discriminate against individuals in any way because of their sex. Title VII covers private employers, state and local governments, and educational institutions with 15 or more employees. There are two different types of sexual harassment claims. The first is quid pro quo sexual harassment, which is when employment decisions are based on your willingness to submit to sexual harassment. The second is hostile work environment claims. This is when sexual harassment makes the workplace intimidating, hostile, or offensive. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission is the federal agency responsible for investigating charges of job discrimination related to sex in workplaces of 15 or more employees. Liability depends on the type of harassment and who committed it. Employers can be legally responsible and liable for sexual harassments against their employees.
Sexual harassment in the modeling industry. Models in the modeling industry have been sexualized for years. The amount of sexual harassment between models and photographers is not spoken about enough. Therefore, a new organization, the Model Alliance, has been formed to promote and educate models as to their legal rights and compose a supportive environment, teaching them that they do not have to accept any form of sexual harassment. They have even created a Bill of Rights for those employed as models. 30% of models report some form of sexual harassment while working. One of the problems with the industry is that many jobs are as independent contractors. The employer is not technically their employer. Although there are laws to try and protect models from any form of harassment, these people working with the models do not always follow these rules and tend to make the models feel obligated to do things they are not naturally comfortable with. Another issue models deal with is feedback in the form of harassment from others around them. A lot of people will view a lack of clothing as sexual or trying to be sexy when really the photo is a meaning of art.
Sexual harassment has been
Emotional effects. Sexual harassment has been theorized as a stressor with consequences for the physical and mental health of its targets. Through social scientists have discovered a negative association between sexual harassment and mental health. A few studies have been investigated and the association between sexual harassment and depressive symptoms. A study was done to where that when women and men who experience more frequent sexual harassment at work have significantly higher levels of depressed mood than non-harassed workers. Emotional effects are not the only effects on someone. Physical health is a key factor. Appetite, self-blame, nausea, weight gain or weight loss, headaches, migraines, loss of sleep, denial, and high blood pressure. Eating disorders can occur, such as bulimia, purging disorders, or anorexia. Abusing alcohol or other substances are also has dangerous effects towards mindsets and health. Anger, embarrassment, guilt, and fear. Most people are too afraid to say much about a boss sexually harassing. Fears of firing, harder to take punishments, or the fear of no one believing. The EEOC, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, reported an average of approximately 13,000 sexual harassment complaints every year between 1997 and 2011. These are just the reported complaints.
harassment is in a workplace. Unwelcome verbal, visual, or physical conduct of sexual nature that is served or preserved and affects working condition or creates a hostile work environment. Gender harassment, inquiring into the sexual practice of gay, lesbian, bi, transgender, or gender non-conforming individuals as a group. Any harassing activity that is directed towards an employee due to employee's sexual orientation or gender identify, or that is negative about differing sexual orientations or gender identify can consider sexual harassment. Gender harassment involves generalized sexist comments and behavior that conveys insulting or degrading meaning about women or men. Reported sexual harassment involves male harassing female, which is most common, female harassing male, or members of their own group. Example of gender harassment: inappropriate displays of material that offends a particular gender. Second, comments or remark made that are effort in front of a specific gender, such as an appropriate joke or story, especially if they are directed at a particular person or group of persons. Third, actual physical contact, assault, or interference with a person based on having issue with their individual gender. And last, even labeling an individual with a gender offensive nickname simply because of how they identify. The public discourse often discusses sexual harassment as a problem that primarily confronts women. Some data has proven that sexual harassment does have a disparity also impact on women. Gender harassment can have a toll on not just the victim, but the company could be affected as well. There are legal remedies for the unlawful harassment, such as lost business opportunities or wages for the offender, termination or removal for the person committing the offense, unless changes in policies of the workplace.
Our conclusion, sexual harassment should never have to be in the workplace or have a place in any environment whatsoever. Speaking up about being harassed is the best way to get help before bigger things occur. The leadership of an organization must ensure that employees feel supported by policies against harassment. The organization should make sure the employees know that there is zero tolerance for harassment. And our data slide, over 35% of men have experienced sexual harassment in the workplace or school. A coworker was involved in 4 in 10 male abuse cases. Over 6 in 10 women find lack of sensitivity to workplace harassment. In 2019, employers paid more than $68 million for sexual harassment violations. As per 86% of entertainment industry unions, sexual harassment is a real concern. In the UK, nearly 7 in 10 LGBT people have faced sexual harassment at work. Almost 40% of US women feel depressed or anxious due to sexual harassment.